Hello, it's DKW. We're a different kind of woman because we're strong, independent and unique. On today's show, we're going to be talking designer babies. Now, should we be allowed to choose our baby's eye color, hair or even behavior? Well, that's what we're going to be hashing out on the couch today, so you don't want to miss this one. But take a look at what's coming up. Next, we're going to be playing the red and green card game. And at 4:15, find out what the people on the streets think with Jennifer Lon. At 4:20, we'll be reviewing cute kids products. And later, we'll be discussing the ethics of embryo research with our expert guest, Josephine Quintervale, the founder of Core. So as you know, everybody, I'm not alone in the studio. I have the lovely Sam and Maria. Hi,
hello
ladies.
there, Jen. Wonderful to be here on the couch again.
I'm telling you, do you know what? Today's topic is a bit of a more serious one, if I could say, or a more a topical one in terms of it can swing either way with people. Designer babies.
Difference of opinions, isn't it?
I'm telling you,
yes.
You know, with the progression of science and technology and also medicine now, you know, they've given people the opportunity to even screen their children,
yes,
and even design their children. What do you think about designer babies?
I'm really loving the idea of my great creator in heaven, as I believe, would be able to, you know, form whatever hair color we have, whether we're blonde, blue eyes, whatever. So I don't think I'm not really for the designer babies, Jen. I think it's going a bit too far to be able to plan out your baby however it looks, whether it's going to be uniquely beautiful or beauty of the eye, of the beholder. I prefer to stay on that line.
And well, I'm going to throw a question back to you, but then Maria, what do you think about designer babies? Do you think that, you know, the modern day parents should be allowed to choose certain aspects to their child's overall being, i.e. their appearance or even behavior, because they even screen for certain disabilities or, you know, things that your child might have. So what do you think? Do you think they should, or you should just go with nature's normal way of finding out when your baby comes?
I think this is a very difficult one because, I mean, for me, it's an individual choice. It's really up to the person. But if I'm going to speak for myself, like Samantha, it's not something that I would go for. Why? You know, I think it just, you know, when a baby's born and everyone kind of like, wow, I wonder, looks like the dad, no, like the mom, no. You know, it just take away that natural thing that is meant to be there. You know, I think, you know, like Samantha said, you know, it's just something that go against a lot of people's will. Fine, if the person wants to do it, fine, go ahead and do it. You know, it is an individual choice, but really for myself, no, it's not something that I will go for.
Well then, before I throw some questions out, let me pick your brains with the green card and green card game. I hope you got your cards ready.
We have.
Yes.
We have our cards, you know. So with the red cards and green cards, I want to find out what you guys think. So, and no one's allowed to be on the fence today. So I'm going to pick your brains.
So yes for...
It's going to be yes with the green card and red is no. Okay. So you can play along with us at home as well. I wanted to find out from you, if a 35-year-old woman has not met the right man, should she be allowed to freeze her eggs? Green card yes, red card no. Why? Because in principle, isn't that also like going against nature in the sense of you're not, you know, doing it the normal way, you're actually having your eggs frozen and so on?
That's totally different.
Okay, explain why.
It is really different. I mean, 35-year-old woman, she hasn't found her suitable partner. And why shouldn't she be given that choice? Why shouldn't she do that? However, she's not designing her baby. She's not saying, look, you know, I want this baby. I want my baby to have blue eyes when she and her husband has brown eyes. and you know, and so on. She's not. It's not a baby that's been actually designed in such a way. It's completely different. This is a woman who, you know, I mean, we're talking about menopause as well. I mean, she might start having early menopause.
Yeah.
You know, menopause could start at a very early age. And what if a year later or 6 months down the line or even a couple of years later, this woman now starts to have menopause? That's her finish, you know. There's no way, well, I don't believe that she would ever have a child. So why shouldn't she have that choice? I'm not against it.
Okay.
I'm not against
I'm
it.
I'm liking what Maria is saying, because it like what she was saying, it is giving us, people have a free will. And one thing I believe is that we've all been given that free will, and we should be able to choose. I mean, this woman may be trying to avoid risk factors, and she may not, for example, if it's a woman who may not be able, her body's not able to carry children for whatever reason, you know, she's given a chance to have a child in this world. I know there's adoptions and other ways of having children, but this is a way of her having her own child. So I think, yes, why shouldn't she? Why shouldn't she be given that choice?
But then
it's because it's a privilege. It's a privilege.
But then wouldn't some people argue, well, why shouldn't I have the choice to screen my child and to check what their hair colour is going to be, how they're going to behave, and so on?
The facts is, Jennifer, you have got that choice as well. That's the thing. I mean, who are we? I mean, I look at it like this, whether we can agree or disagree, but I don't think I think we have to learn to still respect people's opinions, people's values. You know, my point is not that. My point is when we don't have boundaries, when we go too far, and it becomes something that you're doing for fashion. You know, you're not really thinking about a child. You're just thinking about something to satisfy a fashion, you know, thing. And I think in this sense, I would be against it if it's for the wrong reasons. I think what's important here is what is the intention of the person who's going to take these very unique actions. You know, what's their intention? And if they have the right intention, why not give them the choice?
It's a personal choice. It's not for us, you know, for anyone to become judgmental. You know, we cannot judge the person just because that's what they choose to do. You know, it's an individual choice. But
I think I would be on the fence for this one.
Well,
there is a fence going on here.
I'm not for or against. I'm just like thinking of some views at home that might be thinking, okay, but having said that, who gets to determine what the boundaries are? And you know,
that's another story. Who does?
Maybe they don't think it's a thing whereby it's of fashion. Maybe it's a cultural thing where they would. Maybe in their day and age, they found it difficult looking the way that they looked. I.e., they were bullied tremendously at school because they had a certain thing on their faces or a certain form within their bodies, and they would do anything to alleviate that for their child. What if they wanted to go down that route and they thought, well, perhaps it would be better for, I don't know, little Joe Bloggs to have blonde hair, blue eyes?
It's clear that we have got human beings who suffer in this world because of the way they look, because they're different, you know, and the fact is that people are not looking inside of the person on that person's personality or character. They may judge the person by the way they look. And I mean, this is a really horrible thing in life. And on that sense, that's why I said I would have to be on the fence here, Jen, because if a generation chose, if for example, there was a fact that, you know, the child was going to be disfigured, and this child is going to come in this world and suffer, and there was a way to make that child come into this world and not be disfigured, I could not argue against that, Jen.
So then my next question is this. Would you advise your friend to be a surrogate mother of her sister's baby if her sister herself couldn't give birth? Would you go for surrogacy? Green card, yes. Red card, no. Maria, you've got to make a decision.
I have to make a decision. I just wish there was an in-between card.
No.
I mean, I will say, oh gosh, this is
Card,
so
Maria.
difficult.
Card, Maria.
I know. Okay, I'm going to choose. Okay.
Red, okay.
Right.
So you're going to hash it out between each other. Who wants to go first?
Okay, I'm not. Okay, I have to be really sincere because it took me a while to make
That was
the reason.
You were on the fence there.
Yeah, definitely on the fence there, Samantha.
Tell us why,
because
Maria.
Because I think that is that it could become such a huge problem. Imagine now after, the sister have the child and holding that child for the first time and not wanting to give the child.
Yeah,
now that can really, really divide a family completely.
Yeah.
For me, that is the reason why I would say no, because it could really bring a lot of problems.
The emotional attachment
attachment.
That is a risk.
Family division, so much. I'm like I said, I took my time because it's not that I'm totally against it, but I am looking at the effect that it might have on the family.
I mean, it's a really good point. I think that's a really good point. But I just think that if I was, I should be able to give that choice, as we were speaking about earlier. And for example, if I could not have children, and you're my sister, Maria, you know, and you would be willing to carry my child for me, as people do it, as it's gone on in the world today, it does work, and it has been very, very successful. I think it's a good thing. I really do think it's a good thing.
As I said, I'm not totally against it, but then this is something that has to be really, really carefully thought of. And even after thinking about it for a long time, it might still cause a lot of problems. Well, let's see
what the people on the streets of London think with Jennifer Lawrence. I mean,
that would be interesting to see what
let's
they
find
have to
out.
say.
So take a look at what Jennifer found out on the streets of London.
Do you think an embryo has the status of a person?
Yes and no. More personally, like if it was for me and I was pregnant, I would consider like the embryo to be my baby. Like I would give my own embryo that status. But in terms of like actually giving an embryo a status of human or not, I'm not quite sure. I guess so.
I don't think you can even equate cellular matter, frankly, with a person who's actually come into the world and has evolved. And I think our laws tend to get a little bit afraid of acknowledging that fact, but I don't think that you can equate an adult life or even a child's life that's come out of the womb with cellular matter.
I don't know. It depends on what stage of the pregnancy.
Yeah, definitely, I agree.
And what your whether she was trying to like have a termination, and obviously the father didn't want that. So it really depends on the circumstance.
Circumstances, yeah, absolutely.
Would you become a surrogate mother or donor?
Yeah, sure. I feel like it's an incredible gift to give to people that don't have that opportunity. So yeah, sure.
Absolutely, I'd definitely be a donor. You?
I'm not sure. It's something that I haven't really given much thought. But if I was to think about it, then yeah, definitely helping someone else to have a baby would be.
I think for me, I think it would have to be like a family member or a close friend for me to have to go through something like that, so that I've still got that connection with the child.
I think I probably could definitely do that for somebody that I knew. I would have a much harder time doing it for somebody that I did not know.
And if you were to fall pregnant later in life, would you have a screening to test for Down syndrome?
Absolutely. I think it's really important, even if you wanted to keep the child, to anticipate any health needs or extra precautions that you would have to take in their childhood, and so it's important to know that as early as you can. I also think that, depending on what your decision is, it would be a factor in considering whether or not you want to keep a child.
Yeah, sure, I guess. I think more to err on the side of like caution. It wouldn't be a kind of like I want to know so I can do something about it if my baby has Down syndrome. It'd be more kind of just kind of to be more prepared when the baby comes. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I would.
definitely.
Yeah, I would need to know.
This program is brought to you by UCKG. This program is brought to you by UCKG.
So welcome back. We've got a few products here to review that are going to help our kiddies look even cuter. So even if you don't want to design their embryos, at least you can design their clothing. But you know, ladies, take a look at this. This is from Young Souls. I'm just going to read a little bit more about them. Young Souls are an award-winning luxury children's footwear brand, and they have a small collection of shoes for boys and girls, from toddler to junior, and they're designed in East London, where I'm from.
Local.
But they're made in the lovely Portugal. So we've got some good quality stuff right here. So I don't know if you want to take a look. I love these.
Absolutely beautiful. Can I stretch out and grab these little red ones? Isn't that cute?
Yeah, I really
mean,
like
they
them.
look sensible. They look safe.
Yeah.
You know, they've got no heels.
Yeah.
They look balanced.
Do you know what I love about them is that they actually remind me of children. You know, some of the brands nowadays, they're trying to make the kiddies
look
shoes.
like adult shoes.
Yeah, this you can tell this is something that a child would love, but it also still looks very
and
childlike.
you know what? They're very light.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're very light.
But you've both hit it on the head there, actually, when you said no heels.
Yeah.
I love it. I really,
Kids' shoes
really
should be
love it.
children's
It's
shoes,
comfort.
shouldn't they?
It's comfort. It's just so amazing. I
They
love
look
it.
very
I
comfortable.
really,
Yeah,
I mean,
they
I feel as if I
definitely.
could wear them myself.
I mean, even if you press on inside, Sam, you can actually feel the softness
wow,
of the
Well,
shoes.
while you're looking at those, I'll just read the ethos behind Young Souls is that they're designed from childhood memories, which is really cute. But they also try to work with current trends as well. So, you know, you get the cuteness, but you're still in fashion.
Yes.
And they also work with natural materials, which is really good. So they're,
So
you know,
it's real leather.
really
leather
good.
shoes.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
It's good quality
Very nice.
right there.
Yes,
And also, Lucille, who founded Young Souls in 2013, did that after having her daughter Rosie, and she became quite frustrated because she noticed that there was a lack of choice on the high street for classic style kids shoes. Now, I definitely agree with that. A lot of obviously we can't call out names, but a lot of the other brands, like I was saying, they tend to make the kids' shoes look more like adult shoes, and so they kind of lose their innocence about them when it comes to the footwear. But at least with these, you know, your child is going to have fun, look great, and still look like a child, in my personal opinion. I love these. They really remind me of my primary school days.
Yeah, they do remind me of my
This
childhood.
one actually reminds me.
Do you remember?
of,
They had a lot of these in our younger days.
Well, they had
this
them.
actual style.
We used to wear them back home
Oh,
as
really?
children. This is, and to see them now, I mean, I love them. I used to feel the comfort, but this is even more comfy.
Yeah, they're gorgeous.
Really,
I love
really nice.
I've got nephews, and they are quite boisterous. So what I love about this is
They're strong.
They're strong. They're not going to like fall apart after a couple of days, unlike some brands. I won't care to mention them right now on TV. But I love them. I think they're great. I mean, well, Jem's wedding was absolutely gorgeous. But what do you do if you have an occasion and you don't know what to put your kids in? Well, we've got some cute kids that are going to come in with some bridal wear.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Absolutely
That is so
beautiful.
gorgeous.
I love that.
Oh, isn't that lovely?
Oh, he looks really cute.
Oh, handsome.
I love it.
Very nice.
Love it. Well, we've got Arabella in this beautiful dress, and we've also got Jaden, who's modelling that lovely suit from Occasions Wear for Kids. And they're an established online retailer for children's clothing. And what they wanted to do is find some stylish lines and stunning looks for kids, for christenings, for weddings, and so on and so forth. And guess what? They range from ages 0 to 3 all the way up to 13 to 14 years old.
Wow.
Brilliant.
So that's a huge age that they cover. Ladies, what do you think? I love
Absolutely lovely.
Ariella.
I am in love with the
Love
two
the
of them. I
colours.
think they look.
And I love what you said earlier. Children should look like children, shouldn't they?
Yes.
And they do. They
I
look
love
very
it.
nice.
Sorry, Jaden, if you can just take a step forward. Do you know what I'm looking at? His shoes as well again,
Oh,
with the navy
wow.
blue suit. I think that is a great combination. I love that. He looks very, very handsome, but he looks comfortable. He looks like if he wants to shake a leg there, he won't be restricted on the dance floor. He'll look quite cool. I really like that. Ladies, one thing I wanted to ask you, what do you feel about children's clothing now these days, and what do you like about this particular line here?
I love this line because it still looks professional, it looks safe. Children, I like I was saying before, I do believe that children should look like children, and they shouldn't be forced to look like adults in adults' clothing. Now, I mean, we can see they look very smart, they look safe. You know, they're not exposed in any way. You know, their bodies, they're great, absolutely. Children should look like children.
And I mean, the company's ethos is to let kids be kids. So like you said, for them to be free when they're wearing the clothes, and also for them to look great without the huge price tag. Now, you know, you
that's
go to
another thing, yes.
you go to some of these high street stores, and you know, for a dress like that, you're looking at you know, a few hundred, but on the website you can get it at a really reasonable price, which I think is really good. So if you want to have that luxury wear and you want your kids to look great, but you might not have that much in budget, it's definitely the website that you should go to. It's fantastic. Thank you guys, you look absolutely gorgeous. Well, we're going to be going for a short break, but don't leave us. We've got Josephine Quintavalle, who's going to be talking about embryos and fertility. Stay tuned.
This programme is brought to you by UCKG.
I get motivated to kickstart life again. That motivation that just pushes me for the rest of the week. So it's like a boost.
It gave me that hope. You know, it gave me something to look forward to.
I felt welcomed. The environment it's hard to explain, but I felt at peace. It's home.
Sometimes, in order for you to get to the place that you want to be, it's important just to take that little step.
They didn't judge me from what background I came from. I felt like I belonged.
One of the greatest things is, you know, you get to meet new people. Maybe, hopefully, I might get to see you there.
This program is brought to you by UCKG.
Welcome back. Today we're talking designer babies, and I've got the beautiful Josephine Quintaval with us here today. Josephine, it's an absolute pleasure to have you in the studio.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Please tell us a bit about your work and who you are and what you do.
Well, for about 20 years I ran a crisis pregnancy centre in central London, where I met women from all over the world, and obviously many from Great Britain, etc. And during that time, towards the end of the last century, in fact, in the 1990s anyway, there was a government consultation put out by the Human Fertilisation and Embryology Authority, and it was on the use of fetal tissue, what could be done with fetal tissue. Ovarian tissue was what they were looking at. And without going into great detail, the issue that shocked me most was a question asking the public what they thought about using ovarian tissue from aborted female babies to collect eggs to use to create new life. And I was aghast with horror when I read this, to say that you would abort a female baby and then take eggs from that aborted fetus to create a new life for somebody else. And I suddenly realised that the assisted reproductive world had moved ahead at a great rate, and that we needed to have a particular focus on the issues associated with assisted reproduction. They also asked whether you could take ovarian tissue from deceased women, from adults, and considering that the offspring is a child, it's not a new organ that you're growing, it's a human being. To be born from either a dead mother or from a baby who herself had never been born, it was truly shocking. And that's an official consultation document that anybody can have access to. I think it was 1994, and it was on the use of donated ovarian tissue. So I then realised that assisted reproduction had gone really, really quickly into some very, very dark and unethical corners.
Wow. Because I'm even shocked. I didn't even know about that. I really didn't know. Ladies, I mean, I'm going to open the floor now. We had our green card, red card debate. Do you have any questions?
Well, yeah, I mean, what is the current situation now in the bioethical field right now? What
in relationship to creation of new life? Well, it's almost when you go over the hill, you never go back. You go downhill very quickly, and in desperation, for women to have children, just about anything goes. At the moment, what we're most concerned about is the most recent news is that a suggestion that young women should freeze their eggs. They have no fertility problems. They maybe have career problems, but that they should that we should be providing assistance to freeze their eggs so that they can get on with the rest of their career, etc., and then go back to the freezer and collect their eggs and try for a child later. Now, I find this extraordinary too. These are not women who have fertility problems. They're young women who are fertile. And one of the positions that we take is that society should accommodate our biology, not try and distort our biology. If we're most likely to get pregnant in our 20s and our early 30s, society and the work and employment and everything should be geared around that. So people don't end up doing these extraordinary things like putting your eggs in the freezer. And that's been recommended in the last few months.
You know, it's quite interesting because we did ask that in our green card, red card game. And one thing I wanted to ask you, some people may, because we did ask people out there what they thought with some of these questions. And some people might argue, well, I've always wanted to have children, but I'm not financially stable and it would be unfair to bring a child into the world where I couldn't afford to give them the best. Would you argue then in certain circumstances rather it would be okay to freeze one's eggs? Or
well, I think, you know, what we're looking at is we're looking at children as a burden, but I think this is an absurdity. Across Europe there's a declining population. People don't accept this, but it did come out in the migrant talks last night that Germany's very much open arms to the migrants to come because the population of Germany is going down. And to look upon children as a financial burden is the wrong way round. Children, even if you just look at it in terms of economics, are the consumers of tomorrow. If we don't create them, there's nobody to buy the baby clothes, there's nobody to buy the prams and pushchairs and things. And we've got to put that nonsense back behind us and make women understand that they should be fighting not to distort their biology but to celebrate it and to be allowed to have children when they can conceive easily without having to resort to you know, IVF clinics, etc.
In saying that, what laws do you think should be prohibited then?
Well, I think one of the issues that we're dealing with at the moment, which is particularly an issue of legislation, is the manipulation of the human embryo. The so-called three-parent embryo. I think we should come down on that with an absolute ton of bricks. We should not be playing with the building blocks of life.
Now, if there's a viewer out there that doesn't understand the three-parenting with the embryo, could you explain that as well to the viewers so that they could understand that?
Well, I think the issue is that once we took the embryo out of the body and into the petri dish, or we took the eggs and the sperm, and there was a possibility to create a new life outside the womb, then it's inevitable that you start with, you know, a quality control. What's the best egg? What's the best sperm? I don't want that. I want this. And so on and so forth. And also, it's also led to a huge collection of surplus, because while nature goes one at a time, month after month, the process of IVF is let's get as many eggs as possible, let's create as many embryos as possible, which leaves also question marks about what to do with the surplus embryos, which, as I say, doesn't happen in nature. And so with embryos outside the body, if you've got too many, then you start testing. I don't want any embryo. And prior to all of this new technology, the idea was you kind of accepted what you got. But now it's, no, we've created, say, 10 embryos, 15 embryos. Let's analyse them. Let's see which one we think's the best. Let's take some cells out and see what the cells show. We don't know what taking cells out of the early embryo does to it in the long term, etc. But, you know, then there is a quest for perfect. And then the embryos that are considered imperfect get destroyed, the others get put in reserve, and nobody knows worldwide how many human embryos are sitting in freezers around the world, unused and unlikely to be used. So it's a big question about, and I think we have to go back to when does life begin? And I say to everybody, you were an embryo, you were an embryo, you were an embryo. And in fact, I've got a lovely T-shirt that says former embryo. Whether you like it or not, it is the beginning of life.
So, Josephine, when embryos are created for, let's just say, for 6 siblings, whose decision do you believe it should be?
In many respects, that's not continued in a great way. It was in the past. But I feel that we need to find cures for the conditions that that were under the microscope in those days, but I don't think that you can put that burden on another human being. And I don't want to mention names, but at the time, you know, when this first came forward, we did oppose that in a very big way. And it's very sad. The process went ahead, but the sick child was not cured. It didn't work. So you have to then start to think, whoever is created for that purpose, do they feel a failure?
Yeah.
They were meant to help somebody else, they didn't achieve it, etc. Of course we've got to find cures for disease, but it's how you get there, how you get from A to B is where the ethical conundrums have to be solved. Yeah.
So my next question is how close do you think we are to designer babies? I mean, do you think that we're in it now, or would it be in 5 or 10 years' time? Or?
Well, I like to speak very positively about designer baby, and the best way to have a designer baby is to have it when you're young and biologically ready for it, and then to be very careful about your diet. You know, the dreaded no smoking, please, and also, you know, limit alcohol and also issues of body weight and all kinds of considerations. Healthy, you know, procreative health, but not involving any exploitation of other human life in any way. So all of that, I don't want to seem somebody who's always saying no, 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 what they call a Luddite, I think, in historical terms. No, but to encourage. And also the other thing, to underline to women of today, when your arc of fertility is most likely to deliver a child, and it is, as I say, in your 20s and in your early 30s. So the idea that women would put their eggs in the freezer so they could go back later to have a child is just absurd. We have to have employment laws that celebrate pregnancy and celebrate the new generations, because we need, some people will come at it from a religious perspective and creation of new life, but even in economic terms, we need new life. And if you ask anybody in Europe, do you think Europe's overpopulated? They'll all tell you it is. But if you look at the population rates across Europe, they're all dipping. In Italy, you know, great quasi-Catholic country, let's say, but their rates are very low, and it impacts on the economy as well.
So, I mean, having said that, some might argue, well, you know, Josephine, I haven't found the right one. I'm now in my mid-30s and I'm still on the search, and I'm honestly searching. Why can't I freeze my eggs?
Well, I could say, well, you can freeze them if you wish. And you have the choice to do that. You have the choice to do. It's expensive. You bear that in mind. And, I hope it works for you. But I think it's very, the chances become less and less, because even if you've got young eggs, you still get older. And I think we should do a big job of educating women to understand about their own biology. I think IVF has come along as a kind of holy grail. This will always work, you don't need to worry. And we also have to be very conscious that it's much more likely to be a problem with professional women than it is, if you look at the demographic thrust. It's the professional woman who says, if I stop to have a child, I won't climb up the ladder in the legal firm, I won't get advanced in medicine, etc. So I think we've also got to fight for this. I come from a country, New Zealand, which was the first country to give women the vote. And liberation is not pretending that we're the same as men. It's celebrating our difference and protecting it and fighting for it. So we should have plenty of time off to have children, and there should be incentives to have children, not it always be looked at as a negative. But I know what you're saying, because many of my young friends, I mean, everybody's young to me, but my sort of professional 30-plus friends, they all do get kind of desperate. But in a way, IVF has held out this idea, it doesn't matter, wait, you can have it at any stage. And I'll tell you something else, because I'm at the grandmother stage. There's a lot of grandmothers who are puffing and huffing and saying, oh my goodness, I wish I was younger when I'm asked to look after the grandchildren, because one's almost missing out a generation now.
Yeah.
And that's something to consider as well.
Wow. You know, what would be your final, because we're coming to the end of the segment, what would be your final talk to that woman out there who's considering it and they're not quite sure what to do?
To freeze her eggs?
To freeze their eggs.
Oh, well, I would say it's very invasive. It can go seriously wrong. I've known women who've been rendered infertile through overstimulation, etc. It's not a quick fix, and it's not an easy fix. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Josephine. It was an absolute pleasure. You're very, very informative and very educational. It was lovely having you on. I really appreciate it. And stay tuned, because we're going to talk more on designer babies.
This programme is brought to you by UCKG. This programme is brought to you by UCKG.
Hello and welcome. We're talking designer babies on today's show. And ladies, I've got a little bit of some factual information for you, and I want to pick your brains to see what you think. Now, an embryonic stem cell researchers poses a moral dilemma. It forces us to choose between two moral principles: the duty to prevent and alleviate suffering, i.e. with illnesses and sicknesses and such, or the duty to respect the value of human life, because you are testing on an embryo and screening. So my first question to you ladies is, do you believe an embryo has the status of a person? Is it even a living thing? Do you think an embryo is a living thing?
Wow. I mean, I see living as when the breath has been into the person, it becomes alive.
Mm-hmm. When the heart is developed.
Yeah, the heart's developed, the person is breathing. You know, so I find it difficult to say that it's actually alive at that point.
When it's an embryo?
Yeah.
Okay, Maria.
I mean, I of course, it's going to develop into a human being, into a life. But I think it hasn't yet developed into a life. It hasn't started to develop yet, and it's not breathing as yet. Is it?
Well, that's the question.
That's the question.
Maria,
what do you think?
No, I'm going along with you as well, because I mean, for me, like as Sam said, it has to start having life. It has to start breathing. It has to start taking shape. It has to have all the actual organ, everything that is needed for it to actually.
I'm all for respecting the value of human life. You know, I think in this world we all have that duty to respect life, and I think we should. But if I'm thinking of my great Creator in heaven, as I believe, one thing I do believe, and me and a friend was discussing this. One thing I believe our Creator gave us, He did give us that free will. Right. He did give us that free choice. And I stand with that. This is why I can't You know, a lot of people want to blame, and we have different of opinions. But I think that I am going to respect your opinion as you would respect. If you disagree with this, I'm going to respect that. You know, if someone is for it, then I'm going to respect that as well. Because I think my great Creator has given me that choice and given each individual that choice.
But then wouldn't some people argue that, I'm so sorry, just to put it out there, wouldn't some people argue, okay, but you've taken that choice away by taking this embryo and keeping it there? You haven't given that embryo the potential choice to give life because it's somewhere stuck in a science lab or in a freezer somewhere. And wouldn't people say this is where, you know, does if I could say boundaries override choice? Because then, you know, it's the same principle as people have free will to kill, but it doesn't mean that they should.
Exactly, precisely. You have a great point, and I do think it's quite bizarre that embryos are being, you know, left there and for years and years, and we don't know what's going to happen to these embryos. I do find that quite frightening.
Yeah.
Because what is going to become of them? What do they do with them? And you know, this could be another topic, another whole show.
Yeah.
Because, like you said earlier, Jen, where does the boundaries come in?
Yeah.
Where does it stop?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't seem to be stopping, and it seems like even in law, you know, even in our legislations, these things are allowed to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
one thing I did want to ask then as well is, what do you think about the screening process? Now, this has been very controversial, where parents can have their children screened to find out if there's a high percentage that they might have some form of disability, i.e., you know, Down syndrome and so on and so forth. And so because of that, they could terminate the pregnancy or abort and so on. Do you think parents should have the right to screen their child for disabilities?
Again, we're talking about individual choices, Jennifer. I mean, if that is what the person wants to do, then go for it. I mean, just because, as Samantha said before, just because, you know, we might believe, or I might believe in something, you know, that is against somebody's will, whatever, it doesn't mean to say that we can, you know, we can actually judge the person. We cannot start to be judgmental. Everything is an individual choice. We are all given that free will, as Samantha said. And we should all be allowed to take that. But however, you know, having said that, I think a lot in a lot of cases, people do become judgmental. They do become judgmental, whichever way we look at it.
I mean, even, you know, speaking with Josephine, I mean, that even opened my eyes a lot. And I mean, it could kind of sway my opinions, just listening to her and understanding and being more aware of the whole situation of it. You know, there is risk factors, Jen.
Yeah.
You know, this could cause someone to put their bodies in a dangerous position.
Yeah.
Now that is, I'm thankful for her coming on the show, because I think our viewers and even ourselves, we are more aware. And I think that people do need to be aware of the risk factors, that it can bring problems to your own body. And that if it's something that is going to be considered, that it really needs to be thought out, and we need to be very, very mindful of these decisions that we take before we just rush into it. Because it's like everything, there's two sides of a coin. You know, yes, you may get a result, but it may not turn out exactly how you planned. And there's these risk factors that really need to be taken into consideration.
And also, are the women getting the right information? Because a lot of times they're not given the right information. Okay, you're going for the screening, whatever, you know.
You have the IVF
and have the IVF, but they're not having the right information, and they're going into something that is a high
bring
risk.
problems
it could
to them
bring
later
problems, yes.
Can I even ask you a question? I mean, I know you both have children. If there was a possibility, I know this is quite personal, that you could have had your embryos or your eggs checked, would you have done it? Would you have done
to
it?
see if the children
to see, because some people would argue I wouldn't do it because look at the Stevie Wonders, look at all those who, you know, that has some form of disability, and now they're such an asset to life and history and culture and so on and so forth. So are you stopping the production of future men and women that, okay, fair enough, they might not be able-bodied or they might have a disability. Are you stopping them from existing and contributing to our society? That's what some people would argue, and even then, but then you've got the flip side where people will say, but I would like to know, because not everybody turns out to be a Stevie Wonder.
Exactly.
And not everybody, no, but I just wanted to find out from you. So,
I mean, this is why I'm saying it's hard to judge. It's really one of those situations where every different scenario, every different story is going to be different, and you've got to judge each situation is going to be clearly judged differently. So this is why I said I myself, I think I would.
You would screen?
I think I would, and maybe would have screened if I'd given that opportunity. Because I think just the curiosity, wanting to know, are my children safe? Are they well? Are they healthy? But, you know, but for me, it's not something that I would have, you know, some people are living by, I have to do it just in case. I think that I wouldn't have to do it. For me, if I didn't do it, wouldn't matter to me, because whatever child I bring into this world, I'm going to love my child. It's mine, it's part of me. So I'm going to love that child. Maria,
I think also if a parent, I mean, just say one of the parent already has a disability.
Yeah.
And I think that might be something that the parent would really want to go into it and find out, because okay, in some cases both parents have a disability, and now imagine now not knowing if your child is going to have the same disability, and are they going to be able to cope?
Right.
And there's so many questions. We can go round and round and round in circle trying to find out the right answer. Okay, I mean, if I had a disability and my husband had a disability, I would want to know if that child would also have a disability. You know, I don't see anything wrong in it, but think of all the questions that could be asked this particular subject, especially, as I say, Jennifer, if the two husband and wife already has a disability, how would they then cope with a child with a disability?
Yeah, I'm hearing you, Maria. And sometimes isn't prevention sometimes better than cure?
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
Can I leave it on that note?
No, you can't. I mean, that's a very good point. It's just me hashing it out, because there might be a viewer sat there thinking, well, but what about this one? And the next thing that I wanted to throw out to you is, do you agree with, like, I know we answered this in the beginning, but do you agree with the right of interfering with nature? So it's not even on the stance now of, okay, designer babies, I want my child to have blonde hair or blue eyes or brown eyes with curly, kinky hair. Well, you know, now it's gotten to the stage of, is it ethical to interfere with nature and the way God created us, or to check and screen? Because when the human being was created, there was no screening process.
Exactly. Yes. Indeed.
So do you think, but then screening also works on the other hand with the prevention is better than cure.
That's the problem, Jen. That's the problem. It can lead on that negative side, that you're only doing it for the sake of your cosmetic, wanting to know how the child is going to look. That's a different scenario altogether. And I personally, on that note, if it's health-wise, then I may agree to it. But if it's just for the sake of, just how the child is going to look, I think that's really unfair. I mean, I've got two children. Yeah. They're both differently unique. And, they're beautiful. And I think it's quite boring and frightening to know about the fact that people can invent designer babies, and how frightening would it be to have a world that we're all the same, Can you imagine that, Maria?
Imagine
you in a school,
playground.
you've got all these kids that look exactly the same. It's just very bizarre. I don't like the idea of that at all. At all. And I don't agree with that.
Yeah. Me neither. I have to go along with Sam.
Yeah.
You know, I can't imagine, you know, a school playground, you know, everywhere you're walking on the street, you're seeing the same child, you know, you're looking at, even in a movie or whatever, everything just looks the same. You think to yourself, this is not how it's supposed to be. Everyone has an individual look, everyone has an individual, you know, I don't know, kind of like look about them. That's what we are used to. We're not used to walking around seeing, you know, everybody with blue eyes or brown eyes or whatever eyes, or, you know, we're not used to that.
Can you imagine us three, right? And we all had the same idea of how we want our child to be.
Yeah.
So we all design what's in fashion, and all of our children look the same. It's like these three glasses.
Yeah. And the worst
these
thing
are our three
is,
children.
Yeah, and the worst
And
thing is they don't even look like us.
Yeah.
They look like something that's been created. You know, I look at my child, you know, oh, he has my nose, my eyes, no, his dad's eyes. But then
I love that. That's unique. That's the uniqueness about it.
And that's the way it's meant to be, not something that has been created by men. You know.
So then, final thoughts, because we are coming towards the end of the show. I want to hear from you. If there was a lady sat there and she was considering, you know, having a designer baby, because now the possibilities now out there. If you've got some cash, you can go for some screening, and you know they're doing the whole parenting thing with the embryo. What would you tell that woman or man that's watching the show now? Who would like to go first?
You can't, can you, Jennifer?
Well, think very, very, very carefully.
Be careful.
You know, before you. I mean, I agree with the last statement of even what our Josephine was saying. I think it's really, really important that you think carefully of your intention, you know, for the children that you're bringing in this world, and the purposes of why you want to design your baby. You know, I mean, they have a free choice. Yeah. Who are we to?
I mean, we
say
have
whether
learned
they
a lot.
can or can't.
Yes, we have learned a lot from you know, from everything that we've been speaking about. But however, it's so true. There needs to be, you know, you really need to go deep into this. Really think about what you're doing, and take in consideration what if something goes wrong.
Yeah.
A lot of thoughts has to be put into it. Yeah. After all, we're talking about a life.
Yeah.
And I think that would be the advice that I would give.
You know, my advice would be, even going from that baby, even to you, what would make you want that designer baby? Is it because you have some insecurities yourself, or do you have some complexes, or is it because, you know, maybe you've gone through things that you potentially don't want your child to go through, so you're trying to protect that child, and you think by screening it, perhaps you could avoid certain things that could happen to them in the future. But nevertheless, one thing I would say is that we're all individuals, and you need to ensure that you love you. Because if you don't love you properly, you might not be able to love that child as you say that you would. So look into yourself, and remember, nobody's perfect as well. Because another thing as well, like you were saying, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So if you're looking at something and you're saying that it's ugly, then gosh, I mean, you need to really, really need to look deep within yourself and search, why do you feel that way, or why do you think that way? So remember, nobody's perfect. If you're looking for the perfect child, I can guarantee you it will never exist. And I don't, this is my personal opinion. I don't care how much technology is out there. There's no such thing as a perfect child or a perfect human being. But what you can do is be the best version of yourself. And we should encourage our children to do the same and be the same too. Right. That's my conclusion on it. It's been a fab show, ladies.
Absolutely. Very interesting.
Very interesting. Learn a lot. Please feel free to go to our website, dkw.me, if you want more information on up and coming shows. And ladies, we've come to the end. So we're going to say bye-bye. Have a fantastic Sunday afternoon, and we'll see you next week.
This programme is brought to you by UCKG.